Video games and music go together so well, it's kind of ridiculous. Ask any frequent gamer and chances are they'll spend 4 hours telling you about how their favorite video game soundtrack is better than your favorite video game soundtrack. So many notable games like The Last of Us, Persona 5, Celeste, Breath of the Wild, the Resident Evil series, and basically everything Square Enix touches have blessed us over the years with some incredible music. Today I want to talk about a game series that, to me, has some of the best music ever put into a video game. Hell, not even just video games, some of the best music, period. And that's the Silent Hill series. Silent Hill is one of, if not the most popular video game in its genre, and that's no secret, clearly. But one thing that I personally feel like isn't talked about in enough detail is its incredible music. Music that perfectly sets the tone of the game, and of course perfectly sets the atmosphere of it too. Okay, so as a little side note, as you've probably noticed with the title, I will only really be talking about Silent Hills 2 and 3, mainly because those ones I feel like exemplify everything I want to talk about the most, and I just have a lot more to say about those two games. Also, there will be minor spoilers throughout, so I highly suggest playing these games for yourself. So, yeah, enjoy the video. Before we actually talk about the music, I think we should talk about the man that created it all. His name is Akira Yamaoka. A little brief history lesson for you guys. Akira Yamaoka was born on February 6, 1968 in Niigata, Japan. He went to Tokyo Art College where he originally studied product and interior design before later on moving towards music. In September of 1993, he was hired by Konami where he began working on games like Contra Hard Corps and Sparkster. When Silent Hill began development back in 1996, Konami was looking for somebody to compose the score for the new title. Yamaoka volunteered to be the one to compose it, believing he was the only one that could capture the tone of the game. And boy was he right. He not only did the soundtrack for Silent Hill, but also went on to being the lead sound designer and made that game sound as good as it did. From that point on, he was the lead sound designer for every game Team Silent made in their 6-year run. He's still making music for video games to this day, with his latest release being for Bloober Team's The Medium, which released earlier this year. I should mention, The Medium is a horror game, so in case you hadn't noticed, this man loves the horror genre. He truly is a talented artist, so I wanted to pay him all the respect he deserves before actually talking about his work. So now that we've wrapped up that little history lesson, let's talk about some music. Now, I'm going to split this up into 3 categories that I think are important when talking about Silent Hill's music. Number 1, tone. How the music builds upon the game's overall message, characters, and, well, tone. Number 2, atmosphere. How the music immerses players into the world of the game, and how it overall makes you feel when playing the game. And number 3, emotion, which is just a bullshit catch-all category I made up so I can gush about how this music has impacted me and how awesome it is. Silent Hill 2 and 3 are very different tonally. Although both deal with similar topics of grief, loss, and some creepy fucking demons, they both have very different approaches to these topics. This is seen clearly just by looking at their protagonists. Silent Hill 2 centers around James Sunderland, a 29-year-old man that is grieving the loss of his deceased wife, as well as battling his own inner demons. Silent Hill 3 has an almost opposite main character, a 17-year-old girl named Heather Mason, who, although yes is also grieving the loss of a loved one, is more so fighting back or rebelling against outside forces that want to control her. The music of both of these games are fucking perfect projections of these two characters. 2 is much more somber and introspective with its approach, symbolizing James and his reflective nature, how his guilt and trauma is eating away at his soul. Whereas in Silent Hill 3, the music is edgier and much more rebellious, just as Heather is throughout the game. She's constantly questioning the sick and twisted nature of the things around her, and quite frankly, She fucking pops off whenever a character says some cryptic bullshit.
Shut your stinking mouth, bitch!
In general, 3's soundtrack has heavier guitars and features vocals with lyrics that deal with topics like love and separation. Both of these games have different contexts and tones to them, and each of their respective soundtracks manage to capture it in a way that feels distinct, but also have a sense of familiarity to them. They feel like companion pieces, not two completely different works. If I had to pick one song from each that perfectly encapsulates the tone of both of these games, it would be each of their respective opening themes: Silent Hill 2's theme for Laura, and Silent Hill 3's You're Not Here. Everything I've just talked about is personified in these two songs. Theme for Laura starts off with very soft acoustic chords, with all the instruments slowly leaking in until bang, it hits you with that awesome guitar riff and banging drums. This is all representative of how the game slowly takes you through James's psyche, before both metaphorically and literally dropping you into multiple pits of despair. Meanwhile, back in Silent Hill 3, with You're Not Here, it drops you right into the action with an amazing and twisted sounding guitar line and pumping drums that keep pushing throughout the entire song. The angst it presents is totally indicative of the overall experience that 3 provides. Also, I just want to say, I really love this song specifically. The lyrics are simple yet powerful, comparing the idea of loving somebody to an addiction that the person speaking can't get over. It's really awesome overall. The next thing on the list is atmosphere, and my god do these games have fucking amazing atmosphere. Everything from the level design to the textures and the fog, the sound effects, all contribute to the overall spookiness of the game, but none of these aspects accomplish the goal more than the music. Ask anybody who has played a Silent Hill or two, hey, what are some of the scariest parts of the game? And I guarantee you that more often than not, they'll say whenever it's really silent at first, and then you walk through a door and all of a sudden it becomes the loudest fucking thing in existence. Now, we've talked about some very conventionally good music, meaning music that has some sort of melody or rhythm to it. Basically the stuff you could listen to in everyday life and not feel like you're losing your goddamn mind. But for this section, I want to specifically look at the music that is from your worst nightmares. Throughout most of the games, Akira Yamaoka took a very industrial approach to sound horror, using machine-like sounds and various bangings and clangings to illustrate to the player that they're fucked. As I said earlier, some of the scariest moments of the game are when 1 second it's totally silent, and then you walk into a room with various ghouls and goblins, and the music explodes your eardrums with the before-mentioned industrial horror soundscapes. Both of these games include these moments, and it adds to its overtly oppressive nature that both the game and the town itself have. Silent Hill's musical atmosphere doesn't just begin and end with the spooks though. There's also some beautiful pieces that help build up character interactions and environments, like when James meets Angela at the cemetery.
Excuse me,
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I didn't mean to scare you.
Or when Heather is first introduced and meets Detective Cartland.
Heather, I need to speak with you. My name is Douglas Cartland. I'm a detective.
A detective? Really? Well, nice talking to you.
Or even just when you're walking around the streets of that foggy town. My final point, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, is just a chance for me to further elaborate on how much I love this music. I'll never have better memories than being at school super early before anybody else got there, and walking around the dark and slightly foggy campus, listening to white noise. Also, I'd like to take a moment to talk about Silent Hill 4's soundtrack. Now, although I haven't played Silent Hill 4, seeing as how all copies of this and pretty much all of the games are fucking expensive as frick, I have most definitely listened to the soundtrack, and my god, Yamaoka really killed it with this one. I don't even have anything to say about it in particular, just listen to it for yourself. Well, I guess that brings us to the conclusion of my video. It is now like 3 days after, or I think 4 days since I recorded all that. And I've been editing throughout the entire days. I don't really know how to end it, but if you like the video, like and subscribe and share, and comment, do whatever. I hope you enjoyed it, hope you learned stuff, hope you have a greater appreciation of Silent Hill and its music and Akira Yamaoka. Thank you for watching, if you did.